Hello. I just woke up, which is why my face is all like, ugh. But anyway, bear with it because I've had a revelation, quote, that I'm sure other people have had before. I just started reading a book that I chose to read simply because I just finished V.E. Schwab's Conjuring of Light at the end of the Darker Shade of Magic series. Share quotes end. I hope it's not the end. And I was like, I don't know what to read. I want to read so many things. Can you just tell me what to read? And my fiance just walked by the bookshelf and picked one off and handed it to me. And it happened to be Francine Prose's Reading Like a Writer, a guide for people who love books and those who want to write them. And it's one of those moments where the universe shoved the right book in my hand. I started reading this when I bought it a couple of years ago. And though my fiance probably doesn't remember, he actually bought me this book. I began reading it at that time, and I can see my annotations from then. I was, underlining in black. And definitely the things that I underlined and set off were important, but I'm going through it again now, and I'm a much more active annotator. I'm far more willing to, scare quotes, deface my books, which is not the accurate term. The accurate term is interact with, annotate. I used to always have to refer to Ariel Bassett's video on annotation, but now you can go watch my video about annotation because I made my own, finally, thanks to Erin Dillman, the lovely channel operator of the Bibliotherapist. That's the weirdest way I've introduced you yet, Erin. The channel operator. Anyway, I made my own video about annotation, and it's like 20 minutes long, so... And that's more scholarly annotation than just annotation for fun. But I was realizing, and I just wanted to make a little rumination video about how books find you at the right time. Because my fiance and I are getting married in 25 days, I'm trying to get rid of some things. I want the apartment to be fresh. I want it to feel adult. I want it to feel... so many scare quotes in all my videos, but adult, I want it to feel like a married couple's apartment. So I've been going through my collections of things and finally letting go of a lot of things. So to do that, I reread Marie Kondo's section on getting rid of books, which I used specifically to go through my video game collection. I mean, video games were a really big part of my adolescence. I haven't, ever completely stopped gaming, but, I used to be very dedicated to playing JRPGs just about every day because they were a great escape. Particularly, they were a great escape for me when my time for them was restricted. A mom would only let us play a half an hour a day. And so that restriction made them more desirable, I think. And now that I can play whenever I want, there's a strange lack of impetus. Such is human nature. I've spent 2 days listening to my dad talk, so this is, his diction is going to be present in this video. You'll be able to tell my sentences are probably whoa out there, except for that one. The point that I pulled out my phone to start filming about was that I have a large collection of books. You've seen it if you've been on my channel. And books are the hardest thing for me to let go of. And Marie Kondo says that that is usually true. Hold on to books more than they hold on to other things. I am part of that group. She allows the exception of having a larger collection of books than the normal, quote, normal people. Who would read her book, because my profession, when I had it, when I taught, when I was an English student, I'm still an English student, but I'm no longer a teacher in an official capacity. See, that's how my dad talks. Everything comes with a qualification. Everything comes with the definition. The reason I started this video is that I am part of that group that, according to Marie Kondo, is going to need to have a larger collection of books, and it's also because I want a larger collection of books. But I have collected writing textbooks, I've collected, just fiction that I eventually want to read, and I actually had a conversation with Cherish of the Motley News, the channel operator of the Motley News. That was really eye-opening for me because she is completely right. She told me that because she and I bought Zadie Smith's Swing Time together, which is over there. It's still on my bed waiting to be read. I did read like 30 pages and loved it, but Cherish called me. She didn't really, it wasn't a call out, it was just an observation that I had never had before about myself, and it was totally dead on. I buy so many books, and I with the full intention at the time of reading them, and then I get them home and I put them on my bookshelf and they kind of sit there. And that is indeed the case that happened with this book, Francine Prose's Reading Like a Writer. I saw it on the shelf and I was like, oh, this book sounds awesome because I'm a reader who wants to write, blah, blah, blah. And this was when I was just beginning to teach, when Raja bought that book for me. And it was really good, the 10 pages of it that I read at the time, and then I got distracted and probably had grad papers to write, and I put it back on the shelf. So Cherish told me that I have an eye for color and organization and things, and sometimes I buy books that will fit into my bookshelves, essentially. I'm paraphrasing. And, I want them because they will look nice there, not necessarily because I want to read them right away. And she made it very clear it was not a criticism, it was just a fact. And I was like, that is very true. And before opening that book again on a whim this morning, I was kind of beating myself up for it because I buy all these books and I spend this money that could go to other things. Like, it could go to groceries, it could go to clothes, or, I could donate it to charity, because if I'm just buying books to have them sit there, what purpose is that doing? And now I have the answer. The answer is, I see a book that I know I want to read, and I'm not sure if it's the right time to read it right now, but I know that it is going to be a book that I will read at the right time at some point in the future. And that is exactly what just happened to me with this book, because I have highlighted so much of it, and so much of it is ringing so true, because I'm trying to write a novel again. So, long circuitous story short, because of this book, and reading it this morning, I am gonna stop beating myself up for buying books that I don't read right away, because this is set on my shelf for 2, maybe 3 years, just because I knew I was gonna read it at some point, but it wasn't the right moment. I like having books to look at. To me, books are a work of art, like Victoria Schwab talks about in her episode of 88 Cups of Tea with Yin Chang, which I'm obsessed with now. I'm trying to collect fewer books, but the fact is, I buy a book and I get excited about it, and I'm not sure I'm the right version of myself to read that book yet, but I know that version will exist in the future. That's why I have so many classics as well, because I want to read them, but I'm not at the stage in my life where I will appreciate them right now, but I know I will. And so when I see a pretty edition, or I see a cheap edition, or an affordable edition that I like, because I'm very much a buy a book because of its cover, kind of person, I'm gonna let myself enjoy doing that. Although I'm going to try not to buy like 80 books just because I have the money to at the moment. Because now that I'm gonna be married and an adult, I need to budget. Adulting. Letting books come to you at the right moment. Buying a book that it's not the right time for right now, or you can sense that maybe it's just, I want to let it be okay for me to have books that I'm not ready to read right now, but I know I want to read someday, and that's all right. There's so many books and you can only read so many at a time, and all I'm doing is collecting books that I want to read at some point. And I also want to let myself do the opposite thing, which is let go of books that I bought at a different time, when I was younger, when I was a different reader, and let go of those books that I really don't think I'm ever going to enjoy reading anymore. Like, maybe those books would have served me at the time. I didn't read them. I missed the opportune time for myself to read that book. And, you know, that's possible. At some points, we read a book that it came to us at just the right time, and that's great when that happens, and that is exactly what's happening to me with this book right now. That's exactly what happened to me with Tanya Huff's The Firestone, which is a book that I bought randomly at a thrift store, and it sat on my shelf for like 4 years probably. I didn't even look at it, but I just knew I liked Tanya Huff, and I was like, maybe someday I'll need, or I'll want to read a silly fantasy novel. And at the beginning of this year, when I was in a pretty bad anxiety depression spiral, I looked at my shelves, I was like, I don't know what I want to read, but I want to read something. I want it to be fluffy. I just want to escape my anxiety for a little while. I just happened to pick up that book, and it was the most fun I've had reading a book in years, I think. So if I hadn't just randomly bought that book that I kind of liked the cover of and I liked the author of, it would not have been there on my shelf waiting to be the perfect book for the future me. But you know, not every book that you buy is going to end up being that perfect book at some point. And that's okay. Like, I have a very hard time letting go of books that I bought, especially if I paid full price for them. Or, well, especially if I bought them new. I have a hard time letting them go because I'm like, oh, well, I spent full price on this book. Well, Marie Kondo's point is that the book served its purpose at the time. You were excited to buy the book. It made you happy to buy the book. Now, let the book find someone else who can get it at a lower price and enjoy it, and, you know, don't let the book decay on your shelf and just die and not be read. Because even though it's hokey, I mean, I think she's got a point. You buy stuff to use it. And I think for a long time I was buying stuff just to have it. Because I didn't always have the ability to buy things when I was younger. Well, I mean, we were not always financially stable, so there's a part of me that's been like, I need to buy all the things because I won't be able to buy all the things in the future, and then I'll have the things, and, you know. But that is no longer the case because adulting. Long rumination about book buying and letting books come to you at the right time, picking out books that for future selves, and letting go for your future self, and letting go of books that are not going to, you know, that may have helped you in the past and you just didn't engage with the book at the time, which is what I need to do. I think I have an entire bookshelf that I'm just not, I can kind of tell that those stories don't call to me anymore in a way that they would have a couple of years ago. Like, when I was in grad school, I really was gravitating towards young adult fantasy and specifically urban fantasy type of books, because I read the Mortal Instruments series and I loved it so much that I was looking for other reading experiences like that. And I don't know that I'm going to find them. I have an entire shelf full of, like one single shelf, not a bookshelf, of books, young adult, sci-fi and fantasy, that I'm just not, the stories don't call to me anymore. I don't want to go on those particular journeys, and I don't think I'm going to. There's a difference between I'm not interested in it right now, and I don't think I'm going to be interested in it anymore, period. But if I do, you know, get interested in it in the future, I could go rent it from the library or something. It's not going to kill me to let go of this book. Where there are other books on that shelf where I know, like, for example, the Sword of Truth series, I bought an entire hardcover set of them at Savers because someone, I guess, decided, or maybe they died, which is really sad, but the books are in such great shape. Like, they're the kind of books that look like they've been taken care of by someone who cared about them a lot, and then they all show up at the same time, and I'm just like, I really hope your owner didn't die, you know, but I'm gonna take you home and love you, you know? So I bought that entire set of books, and I have not opened one of them yet, but I still really love that series. I found it it was introduced to me by my then friend Laura, who introduced me to the world of anime and video games and fantasy books and really just expanded my, she let it be okay for me to read things that were not handed to me from my father, you know, from on high. She showed me that things in those kind of genres have worth as well, and they're great and they're fun. And so I know right now is not the time that I want to read this sort of truth series. But I do want to read it still in the future, and so I'm saving those books, even though I'm thinking I'm probably not going to read them for like a year or more. I know I want to read those books still, so that is why I am keeping them for now. Wrapping up the points with, if you have a book that you don't think you're ever going to want to read anymore, let it go if you want to. If you have a book that you know you don't want to read right now, but you're still interested in, keep it. Because at some point, the right day is going to come when you will want to read that book, and it will be the absolute perfect book for you at the time. And that is really magical when you find a book or a book finds you at just the right moment. It's happened to me multiple times in my life. The very first time it happened to me was the Dragonlance series, which I happened to read them out of order. I read the second trilogy before I read the first trilogy, and I think it's good that I did it that way. But I found one of my favorite characters of all time in that way, Raistlin Majeure. Or Majeure. I say Majeure, and I always will. So I highly recommend him as a character, and I really think Tom Hiddleston should play him, and so does most of the internet. Okay, I'm really gonna go now. Thank you if you've watched to the end. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed these thoughts. What do you think about books? When do you know it's time to let a book go? Books to Huda.